The ship was dying. Everyone aboard knew it. Captain stood on the bridge of the colony vessel New Horizon and watched the warning lights flash red across every console. The engine core had failed 3 days ago. Life support would last another week at most. 12,000 human souls drifted in the cold darkness between stars, and she had no way to save them. They had fled the supernova that consumed their home system. They had watched their sun swell and devour their world. They had packed everything they could carry into this ship and run for their lives. And now, after traveling for 8 months across the emptiness of space, they would die anyway. Closed her eyes. She thought of the children in the lower decks. She thought of the families who had trusted her to lead them to safety. She thought of her own daughter, only 6 years old, sleeping in their small cabin. The communications officer spoke. His voice was tired but steady. "Captain, we are receiving a signal. It is not human." Opened her eyes. "Show me." The flickered to life. The face that appeared was not human at all. It belonged to a creature with a hard shell like an insect, with many eyes that gleamed like black jewels, with mandibles that clicked when it spoke. The translation software struggled for a moment, then produced words in a flat, mechanical voice. "Unidentified vessel. You have entered territory. State your purpose." Had never heard of the. She did not know if they were kind or cruel, peaceful or warlike. She only knew that she had no other choice. "This is captain of the human colony ship New Horizon," she said. "We are refugees. Our home was destroyed. Our ship is failing. We have 12,000 people aboard, including children. We ask for help." There was a long silence. The face on the screen remained still, could not read its expression. She did not know if they even had expressions. Then the creature spoke again. "Wait." The screen went dark. Hours passed. Did not leave the bridge. She drank cold coffee and watched the darkness of space through the forward windows. She tried not to think about what would happen if they said no. She tried not to think about what would happen if they were hostile. When the screen came back to life, a different appeared. This one was smaller than the first, with a pattern of gold markings across its shell. It wore something that looked like a formal robe. "I am Ambassador Aura," the creature said. "I have reviewed your situation. Your ship is badly damaged. Your people are dying." "Yes," said. She did not try to hide her desperation. There was no point. "My superiors advise against involvement," Aura said. "Your species is unknown to us. Helping you would cost resources. There is no benefit to the people." Felt her heart sink. She had expected this. The universe was cold and uncaring. Why would these aliens be any different? But then Aura continued speaking. "However, I have authority over this sector. The decision is mine to make." The ambassador paused. Her many eyes seemed to study through the screen. "I have seen the scans of your ship. I have seen the life signs aboard. Many of them are small. They are children." "Yes," whispered. "Many of them are children." Another pause. Aura's mandibles clicked together in what might have been thought, or might have been something else entirely. "We have surplus supplies in our storage facilities," the ambassador said. "Food and medicine that will expire before we can use them. We have land on the colony World 7 that is unused and unwanted. It costs us nothing to give these things away." Could not believe what she was hearing. "You will help us." "I will help you," Aura said. "It is a small thing. My people will not even notice. But I cannot watch children die when I have the power to save them. That is not who I am." The relief that flooded through was so strong that she had to grip the console to keep from falling. Tears streamed down her face. Around her, the bridge crew began to cry as well, holding each other, laughing and weeping at the same time. "Thank you," said. Her voice broke. "Thank you. I do not know how we can ever repay you." Aura made a gesture that the translation software could not interpret. "There is no need for repayment. This is a small favor, not a debt. My people will forget this moment within a year. You should forget it too." But shook her head. We will never forget. Never. I swear to you, Ambassador Aura, as long as humans exist, we will remember what you did for us today." The ambassador seemed puzzled by this response. "Your gratitude is intense. I do not understand. We are giving you things that have no value to us. This is not a significant act." "It is significant to us," said. "It is everything to us. You are saving our children. You are saving our future. There is nothing more significant than that." Aura was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke again, and her voice was softer than before. "You are a strange species, Captain. I hope you survive. I hope you thrive. And I hope that perhaps one day we will meet again under better circumstances." 3 days later, the New Horizon limped into orbit around 7. Supply ships brought food and medicine. Engineers helped repair the worst of the damage. Officials gave the humans permission to settle on a continent that no one else wanted. The humans built homes. They planted crops. They established schools and hospitals and everything else they needed to begin again. And in the center of their first city, they built a monument. It was a simple stone pillar with words carved into its surface. The words said, "In gratitude to Ambassador Aura of the people, who showed us kindness when we had nothing, we will remember." Ambassador Aura filed her final report on the incident and moved on to other duties. She did not think about the humans again. They were a minor footnote in her long career, a curiosity, nothing more. 30 years later, she would learn how wrong she was. The humans remembered everything. 30 years had passed since the day they saved the humans of the New Horizon. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. And now, in a small medical chamber on the Elder Aura was dying. She lay on a bed made of soft materials, her old shell cracked and faded, her many eyes dim with age. Around her, medical machines hummed quietly. The doctors had done everything they could. There was nothing left to do but wait. But Aura was not thinking about her own death. She was thinking about her people. They was dying too. The great forests that once covered the continents were turning to dust. The rivers were drying up. The air itself was becoming poison. Scientists said the planet had perhaps 20 years left before it became completely uninhabitable. Aura had spent the last decade of her life trying to save her world. She had petitioned the Galactic Concord for aid. She had begged the great powers for help. She had offered everything her people had in exchange for the technology and resources needed to heal their planet. No one had listened. They were not important enough. Their territory held no valuable resources. Their military was weak. Their political influence was small. The great powers of the galaxy had looked at the cost of saving and they had decided it was not worth the expense. Now Aura lay dying, and her people were dying with her. A young attendant entered the chamber. "Elder, there is a visitor requesting to see you." Aura did not open her eyes. "I am tired, send them away." "He says he is human, Elder. He says it is important." Human, the word stirred something in Aura's old memory. She had dealt with humans once long ago, something about a broken ship, something about refugees. She could not quite remember the details. "Very well," she said, "send him in." The human who entered the chamber was young, perhaps 30 years old by their species count. He was tall and dark-skinned, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or official. He carried a small bag over his shoulder. "Elder Aura," he said. He bowed deeply, lower than any would bow to another. "My name is, thank you for seeing me." "I do not know you," Aura said. "Why are you here?" Reached into his bag and pulled out something small and flat. He held it up so that Aura could see. It was a picture, old and faded, showing a younger Aura standing beside a group of small humans. Children. They were smiling. One of them was holding her hand. The memory came flooding back. The broken ship, the desperate captain, the decision to help. "Where did you get that?" Aura asked. "This picture hangs in the New Horizon Memorial Museum on 7, said. Every child born on that world learns your name before they learn to read. Every school teaches the story of how you saved us. Every year, on the anniversary of our arrival, we hold a festival in your honor. Aura was confused. That was 30 years ago. It was a small thing. We gave you supplies that would have gone to waste. We gave you land that no one wanted. Why would you remember? Smiled. Because you saved 12,000 lives. Because you showed us kindness when you did not have to. Because among those 12,000 people was my grandmother, and if you had not helped her, I would never have been born. He reached into his bag again and pulled out a document. It was thick, filled with many pages, covered in official seals and signatures. Elder Aura, I am here as a representative of the Human Coalition. This document contains a formal pledge from 47 human colony worlds. We are prepared to send terraforming specialists to heal your planet. We are prepared to send agricultural engineers to restore your farms. We are prepared to send medical teams, construction crews, and supply ships. Everything your people need to survive, we are prepared to give. Aura stared at the document. She could not understand what she was seeing. This would cost. This would cost more than your entire species can afford. Why would you do this? Because you saved us, said, and we never forget. But we did not save you because we expected repayment, Aura said. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. There was no debt. Knelt beside her bed. His eyes were wet with tears. Elder, that is exactly why we are here. You helped us when there was no benefit to you. You showed us kindness without expecting anything in return. That is the most precious gift anyone can give. How could we not return it? He took her old, cracked hand in his young, warm one. My grandmother made a promise to you 30 years ago. She said that as long as humans exist, we would remember what you did. She died 10 years ago, but before she died, she made me promise to keep that vow. And now I am here to keep it. Aura felt something strange happening to her, a warmth spreading through her old body, a lightness in her chest. She realized with surprise that she was crying. She had not cried since she was very young. I do not understand your people, she said. We gave you so little, and you want to give us so much. That is the human way, said. We remember every kindness, and we return it always in ways that no one expects. He stood up and placed the document on the table beside her bed. The first ships will arrive within the month. Your world will be saved, Elder Aura. This I promise you. After he left, Aura lay in silence for a long time. She thought about the decision she had made 30 years ago. She had thought it was a small thing, a minor act of charity, something that would be forgotten. But the humans had not forgotten. They had remembered, and now they were going to save her entire species because of a kindness she barely recalled giving. For the first time in many years, Aura felt hope. She did not know that across the galaxy, other species were beginning to ask questions. The who had once sheltered human refugees were receiving unexpected gifts. The who had advocated for humanity long ago were finding doors opening that had been closed for centuries. The humans were paying their debts, all of them. Every kindness that had ever been shown to them, they were returning with interest. And the galaxy was beginning to wonder what else the humans remembered. The first human ships arrived at the exactly when had promised. There were hundreds of them, transport vessels carrying equipment, medical ships carrying doctors and supplies, engineering vessels carrying the machines that would heal a dying world. Elder Aura watched them from her window. She was still weak, still dying, but she had asked to be moved to a room with a view. She wanted to see this with her own eyes. The people did not know what to think. For years, they had begged the galaxy for help. For years, they had been ignored. And now, suddenly, humans were flooding their world with resources and personnel. The cost of this operation was enormous. The humans were spending more on them than they had spent on themselves in decades. The council was confused and suspicious. They summoned to explain. stood before the council with calm patience. He was not intimidated by the large chamber or the many officials staring at him. He simply smiled and waited for their questions. "What do you want from us?" the council leader asked. "What trade agreements? What military alliances? What territory?" "We want nothing," said. "That is impossible. No species does something for nothing. There must be a price." Shook his head. 30 years ago, Ambassador Aura saved 12,000 of our people. She did not ask for payment. She did not demand favors. She simply saw that we were suffering and she chose to help. We are here to return that kindness, nothing more. The council leader made a sound of frustration. "But the scale is completely wrong. You are spending a fortune to repay a small favor. The mathematics do not make sense." "They make sense to us," said. "You gave us life when we had nothing. There is no price too high to repay that gift." The council argued among themselves for hours. Some thought the humans must be lying. Some thought it was a trick, a way to gain control over territory. Some thought the humans were simply insane. But in the end, they accepted the help. They had no other choice. Their world was dying and the humans were offering to save it. As the months passed, the scale of what the humans were doing became clear to the entire galaxy. Thousands of human specialists worked day and night on They planted new forests. They cleaned the poisoned water. They built machines that filtered the air. Slowly, the dying planet began to heal. News of this spread across the galactic concord. Other species began to pay attention. The consortium was the first to experience something similar. 2 centuries ago, during the border wars, they had allowed human refugees to shelter in their territory. It had been a minor decision, made by a minor official, forgotten by almost everyone. But the humans had not forgotten. When the orbital platforms began to fail due to age and poor maintenance, human engineers appeared without being asked. They offered to repair the platforms for free. They brought their own materials, their own equipment, their own expertise. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to help. The government was shocked. "Why?" they asked. "Why are you doing this?" The human ambassador showed them old records from the border wars. Names of officials who had spoken in favor of helping the human refugees. Dates of decisions that had saved human lives. "You helped us when we needed it," the ambassador said. "Now we help you. This is what humans do." Then came the collective. 300 years ago, diplomats had argued for humanity's admission to the galactic concord. Most species had opposed it. They had fought for years before finally winning the vote. They had gained nothing from this effort. They had simply believed it was right. Now, suddenly, human merchants were offering the special trade terms. Human scientists were sharing research freely with universities. Human artists were collaborating with creators. Doors were opening everywhere. The leaders investigated and found the truth. The humans had never forgotten who spoke for them when they had no voice. They had never forgotten who believed in them when no one else did. And now they were repaying those old debts with interest. Across the galaxy, species began to search their own histories. They looked for any record of kindness shown to humans. They found more than they expected. Here, a species had shared medical technology with a struggling human colony. There, a species had voted against sanctions that would have harmed human trade. Elsewhere, a species had simply offered words of support during difficult times. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, was recorded somewhere in human culture. Every favor was remembered. And now, as humanity grew in power and influence, those favors were being returned. The species who had helped humanity found themselves suddenly fortunate. They gained allies. They gained resources. They gained opportunities that seemed to appear from nowhere. But not everyone had been kind to the humans. The Dominion had once blockaded a human colony during a trade dispute. The blockade had lasted for months. Thousands of humans had starved. The hegemony had voted against human interests in the galactic conquered for centuries. They had blocked human expansion at every opportunity. The United States had humanity membership in the conquered for 200 years. They had called humans primitive, dangerous, unworthy of joining civilized society. These species watched what was happening with growing unease. They saw the humans repaying kindness with extraordinary generosity. And they wondered, if the humans remembered every favor, what else did they remember? What did they remember about those who had hurt them? The Dominion sent ambassadors to ask. The hegemony sent spies to investigate. They sent scholars to study. They all wanted to know the same thing. Were the humans planning revenge? The answer they found was both reassuring and terrifying. The humans were not planning revenge. They had no lists of enemies, no plans for retaliation, no schemes for punishment. But they also had no plans to help those who had hurt them. If they faced a crisis, the humans would not come to save them. If they needed allies, the humans would not answer. If they required assistance, they would find no human hands extended in friendship. The humans remembered who their friends were, and they remembered who was not. In the halls of power across the galaxy, leaders began to realize a terrible truth. They had thought that kindness was weakness. They had believed that generosity was foolishness. They had assumed that helping others was a waste of resources. But the humans had turned kindness into power. They had made generosity into strategy. They had built an empire not of territory, but of gratitude. And now it was too late for those who had been cruel to change their ways. The humans remembered everything. The emergency session of the Galactic Concord was the largest gathering of species in 300 years. Representatives from every major power filled the Great Hall. The air was thick with tension and the smell of a dozen different biologies. At the center of the hall, Admiral of the Hegemony stood at the speaking platform. He was a massive creature, covered in armored scales with eyes like burning coals. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We must address the human situation," he said. "What they are doing threatens the stability of the entire galaxy." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some agreed, others were not sure. The human delegation sat quietly in their seats, watching and listening. "The humans are buying loyalty," Admiral continued. "They are using their resources to create a network of allied species. They are repaying old debts at rates that no rational species would accept. This can only mean one thing: they are planning something." A representative stood. "The humans saved our world. They asked for nothing in return. How is this a threat?" "Because it makes no sense," the Admiral snapped. "No species acts without self-interest. The humans must want something, and if they are willing to spend this much to get it, then what they want must be dangerous." The ambassador spoke next. "The humans repaired our orbital platforms. They have traded with us fairly. They have never made demands or threats. Perhaps they are simply good." Admiral laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Good. There is no such thing as good in politics. There is only power and those who seek it. The humans are building power through a method we have never seen before. That makes them unpredictable, and unpredictable is dangerous." He turned to face the human delegation directly. "I demand to know, what do you remember about us, about the hegemony, about the decisions we have made regarding your species?" For a long moment, no one from the human delegation moved. Then an elderly woman rose from her seat. She was small and gray-haired, with dark skin wrinkled by age and a gentle smile on her face. Her name was Dr. Sarah, and she was the senior human ambassador to the Galactic Concord. "We remember everything," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the silent hall. "Every vote you cast against us, every time you blocked our expansion, every speech you gave calling us primitive and dangerous." Admiral's scales shifted in what might have been fear. "Then you are planning revenge." "No," Doctor said, "we are not." She walked slowly to the speaking platform. The Admiral moved aside, watching her with suspicion. She looked out at the gathered representatives of 100 species. "I understand your confusion," she said. "I understand your fear. You come from cultures where power is taken, not given, where kindness is weakness and generosity is foolishness. You cannot imagine why we would spend so much to help those who helped us." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Let me tell you a story. 300 years ago, my ancestors lived on a small planet called Earth. We were alone in the universe as far as we knew. We had wars and famines and diseases. We hurt each other constantly. We were not a kind species." She smiled sadly. "But we learned. We learned that revenge creates more revenge. We learned that cruelty breeds more cruelty. We learned that the cycle of violence never ends unless someone chooses to break it." She looked at Admiral. "You want to know if we are planning to hurt those who hurt us? The answer is no. We have decided, as a species, that we will not be defined by our grievances. We will not let our pain become someone else's pain. We remember what was done to us, but we choose not to repay cruelty with cruelty." "Then what will you do?" the Admiral asked. "Nothing," Doctor said. "That is the point. We will not help those who hurt us. We will not seek them out as allies. We will not offer them our resources or our friendship, but we will not attack them either. We will simply continue without them." A representative stood. His voice was angry. "That is still punishment. If you refuse to help us when we need it, you are causing us harm." Doctor shook her head. "No, we are simply choosing who our friends are. You had the chance to be our friends. You chose otherwise. That was your decision. We are simply respecting it." She turned back to the wider assembly. "The galaxy expected us to be predators. When we gained power, you expected us to use it for conquest, for revenge, for domination. That is what you would have done. That is what every species before us has done." Her voice grew stronger. "But we are not you. We decided long ago that we wanted to live in a kind galaxy, and the only way to create a kind galaxy is to be kind ourselves. So we remember every favor. We return every kindness. We build networks of gratitude instead of networks of fear." She looked at the species who had helped humanity over the centuries. The, and others, dozens of others, scattered throughout the assembly. "These are our friends. These are the species who showed us grace when we were weak. We will stand with them forever. We will help them with everything we have. Not because we expect repayment, but because that is who we are." Then she looked at the. "You are not our friends. You had the chance to be. You chose differently. We do not hate you. We do not wish you harm. But when your time of need comes, as it always does, do not expect us to answer." She returned to her seat. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly the representatives began to talk among themselves. Some were angry, some were frightened, some were confused. But others, those who had shown humanity kindness in the past, felt something different. They felt safe. They felt valued. They felt, for the first time in centuries of galactic politics, that someone actually cared about them. Admiral tried to rally support for action against the humans. He proposed sanctions. He proposed military preparations. He proposed alliance treaties to counter human influence. But he found few supporters. The species who had been kind to humanity would not join him, and the species who had been cruel realized, with growing horror, that they were already losing. The humans had won without firing a single shot. They had simply been kind to those who were kind to them. And the galaxy was beginning to understand what that really meant. 100 years had passed since the emergency session of the Galactic Concord. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Dominion was gone, not destroyed but fractured into a dozen small states, each one struggling to survive alone. When their civil war began, they had called for help from the great powers, but the great powers were busy helping their human allies. No one came for the The hegemony still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Economic problems had weakened them decade after decade. They had no friends, no allies, no one willing to trade on favorable terms. They survived, but they did not thrive. The United States had collapsed entirely. A plague had swept through their worlds, and they had begged the galaxy for medical assistance. The humans had watched silently. They did not stop others from helping them, but they did not help themselves. And without human medical technology, the most advanced in the galaxy, they could not save themselves. But the species who had shown humanity kindness, they flourished. There was green again. Forests covered the continents. Rivers flowed clean and clear. Children played in parks that had once been wastelands. They had become humanity's closest partners, their cultures intertwined in 1,000 ways. The consortium had grown into one of the richest trading powers in the galaxy. Human merchants preferred them as partners. Human investors preferred them as destinations. Human travelers preferred them as hosts. The wealth flowed and never stopped. The collective had become the intellectual center of the galaxy. Human scientists collaborated with researchers on every major project. Human universities exchanged students with academies. Human artists worked alongside creators to produce wonders that neither species could have made alone. And humanity itself, they had become something new, not an empire, not a federation, something stranger and more powerful than either. They were gardeners. On the 100th anniversary of humanity's speech to the Galactic Concord, a great celebration was held. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to commemorate the moment when the old ways had begun to die and the new ways had begun to grow. Dr. Sarah was still alive. Human medicine had advanced far enough to extend dramatically. She was old, impossibly old by the standards of the previous century, but her mind was still sharp and her smile was still warm. A young historian approached her during the celebration. His name was Aura, and he was the great-great-grandchild of Elder Aura, who had died peacefully many decades ago knowing that her people would survive. "Doctor," he said, "may I ask you a question?" "Of course, child." "Why?" he asked. "Why did your species choose this path? You could have used your power for conquest. You could have taken revenge on those who hurt you. You could have built an empire like every species before you. Why did you choose to be kind instead?" Doctor was silent for a long moment. She looked out at the celebration, at the end, and at 100 other species who had once shown humanity grace. They were laughing and talking and sharing food and drink. They were happy. They were safe. They were friends. "Do you know what makes humans different from other species?" she asked. "You remember everything," Aura said. "Everyone knows that." "Yes," she said, "but do you know why?" The young shook his head. "We are a short-lived species," Doctor said. "Compared to most of the galaxy, our lives are brief. An elder might live for 300 years. A human is lucky to see 150. We have less time than almost anyone else." She smiled sadly. "That means we know better than anyone that our individual lives do not matter much. We are here for a moment and then we are gone. Our children come after us, and then they are gone too. Generation after generation, we pass through this universe like leaves falling from a tree." She looked at Aura with eyes that had seen a century of history. "So we learned to remember. We learned to pass on what matters from one generation to the next. We built cultures of memory, traditions of gratitude, institutions of kindness. We made sure that even when we were gone, our promises would remain." She took his hand in hers. "Your ancestor saved my grandmother's life." Aura did not ask for repayment. She did not expect gratitude. She simply saw people suffering and chose to help. That one act of kindness echoed through 100 years of history. It saved your entire species. It shaped the galaxy itself. Aura felt tears forming in his many eyes. "But why kindness? Why not strength? Why not power?" "Because kindness is power," Doctor said. The greatest power there is. Empires rise and fall. Armies conquer and are conquered. Wealth comes and goes, but kindness grows, it spreads. It creates more of itself wherever it touches. One act of kindness becomes two, becomes four, becomes a million. She looked out at the galaxy beyond the celebration, at the stars that stretched into infinity. The universe is cold and dark and uncaring. It does not love us. It does not protect us. It does not remember us when we are gone. So we decided to be different. We decided that wherever humans go, the universe will be a little warmer, a little brighter, a little more caring. We decided that we will remember, even when the universe forgets. She smiled at the young. You want to know the secret of human power? It is this. We decided, long ago, that we wanted to live in a kind galaxy. And then we spent every generation since trying to make that wish come true. Aura understood. Finally, after years of study, he understood. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had gardened it. They had planted seeds of kindness wherever they found bare soil, and they had waited patiently for those seeds to grow. Now the garden was in bloom, and it was beautiful. In the archives of humanity, the ledger continued. Every favor recorded, every debt remembered, every kindness returned with interest. And in the hearts of every species that had ever shown humanity grace, a truth had taken root. The humans remembered everything. And they always kept their promises.